Hi, this is our second video in our Worship at Home series, and I'm Kathy Emmons. Let's let our worship this week be informed by Eastertide. It's the season that we're in. It starts on Easter Sunday, goes all the way through Pentecost Sunday, which is our last Sunday in May. And for more information on that, you can go to the first video I did in the series. You'll see it right down here. Worshiping at home is different for a lot of reasons. I mean, some of it has to do with the current circumstance we're in, but I think it's also just being removed from our church community and not being in public with a bunch of people. So when we're in the sanctuary on a Sunday morning, or we're down in Fellowship Hall on a Sunday night, we often do what the worship leader asks us to do. We stand up or sit down or raise our hands or whatever it is, or maybe depending on the person in front of us, we're either more likely to do what they're doing or maybe less likely to do what they're doing. But when we're at home, it's just a whole different vibe. For me, I've really enjoyed it because to me, it becomes more personal. I found that my worship is more authentic. It's more honest. I'm less affected. In fact, I'm not affected by the trappings around me. And so I can just kind of be more forthright in how I'm feeling at the time and in what I express toward God. Here are some of the things I've been practicing that I want to recommend to you. Focus. Now it's going to be different for each one of us. So some people are better in the morning, some people are better in the evening, some people want to do it on their own, some people want to include their kids. But here's the thing. You have to find a time when you can really give worship your individual attention. You have to be able to focus in because you are receiving from God and you're giving back to God. And that's not going to happen, especially in the times in which we're living now, if there isn't a time when we are really centered and ready. Watch and listen. Now let's understand that we can worship God in a variety of ways. So if you play an instrument or you sing, or you paint, or you build something, or you play a sport, or you dance, or whatever it is. So we can worship God through all of those mediums. But in this series and in this time, I'm going to encourage you to worship in a way that perhaps you haven't before, through watching and through listening. Part of maturing in our faith is recognizing the gifting of our fellow believers. We can be satisfied with, a little performance, and I play, a couple chords on the piano, and you might, hit a drum every once in a while. But look, let's go beyond that. Let's appreciate the skill, the craft, people who are advanced in the art that they're pursuing and are offering those skills in glory to God. Psalm 33:3 says this: "Sing to him a new song, play skillfully, and shout for joy." And we are richly blessed in this era of phones and iPads and computers and smart TVs because we can see the performances, the skill, the craft of musicians and artists all around the world, and they can lead us into deep places of worship. Give it a minute. When you hit play on the clip that I'm going to recommend and you hear it, it might be a musical style that you're not familiar with. It might be a person that you don't particularly, get. Or you might think, well, no, this kind of makes me uncomfortable. Just take a breath, open up a little bit, and kind of allow your mind to take in a new thing. And after you've listened to it or watched it a couple times, taken in a couple songs, if it's not for you, that's okay. But the point is that we're learning and we're becoming more open to different kinds of things and different people's expressions as they worship the same God that we worship. My recommendation for viewing and for at-home worship this week is the Sunday Service Collective. This is the choir that was formed by Kanye West. And if you hear that name and it makes you mad or it makes you want to turn off this video, I just want to ask you to wait, take a bit, and watch what's coming. This performance is from March 1st, and it took place in Paris. Now, there are a couple things that are unusual about the recording. First, the choir performs in the round. so they're singing to each other instead of facing the audience. And the second thing is the audience. The audience in this case is not a bunch of believers. This audience is the general public. And a lot of people out there probably don't know who God is, have never been involved in a worship experience, and don't really understand what it is that the choir is singing about. So, as you watch the recording, here are a couple questions that you might want to ask yourself. Number 1, this is gospel music. How is it different lyrically and musically than what you practice? 2, how is the physical movement and expression of worship in this group different than what you practice? 3, how does the presence and the attitude of the worship leader help the audience understand what worship is and who they're worshiping? 4, how does a robe or some kind of uniform dress change the way music and message is conveyed? And 5, how is the reality of the resurrection of Christ central to the performance? So, I invite you to watch. At the very beginning of the recording, and it's not a professional one, there are a couple audio glitches, but just push through. They are of short duration. Some of the music I know you'll recognize. They're songs that you're familiar with, but they have different words and lyrics, so you can watch for that. The quality and the skill, though, of what you are about to see is exceptional. The choir is led by Steve Epting, and the piano is masterfully played by Phil Cornish. The opening lyrics to the first song, which is a tune you'll probably recognize, are these: Jesus is King, the King of Kings. Our God be praised forever. I pray that this performance enriches your Eastertide. Jesus is alive. See you next time. I'm Kathy Emmons.